Down is Andrew Rubin. He's the Vice President for Clinical Affairs and Affiliates at NYU Langone Medical Center. He joins me here in New York. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And also Michael Cannon, the Director of Health Policy Studies at Cato Institute, is a former policy analyst as well from the Senate Republican Policy Committee. He's in Washington. Thanks for being here as well, Andrew. So as we've talked about, there's some big challenges ahead. It has to get through the Senate. It has to merge with the House conference bill. So let's start with the public option. Two senators. We have Senator Joe Lieberman. He's independent but caucuses with the Democrats, as well as Ben Nelson said, I'm okay to go ahead with the debate, but I'm not sure I can support a bill with a public option. So where do you go from there, Andrew?
They're going to have to fight this out. Clearly, a lot of, the Democrats, most of the Democrats want a public option. A lot of the moderates don't want it. The bill will work without it. So we're just going to have to see where they where they settle this out.
What do you think, Andrew, Michael, do you think that there's more chance of bringing over some moderate Republicans and saying, fine, we won't do a public option? Or do you think that it's better to try to get some of the moderate Democrats on board and say, well, there's still a trigger here, states can opt out?
I think that they're more likely to get the left-wing Democrats in the House to cave on a public option, what the so-called public option, than they are to get moderate Senate Democrats to go along with one. Because I think the left-wing knows that this is really a massive entitlement program, a massive expansion of the entitlement state, probably the biggest expansion of government we've seen in our lifetimes. And the centerpiece of this legislation is not the so-called public option. It's the mandate that requires every American to purchase health insurance. And I think the left knows that if they get that, then they've pretty much gotten what they want from this bill, which is a government takeover of the private health insurance industry.
Really? I mean, one of the things that was startling to me is just how low that quote-unquote penalty is for not being in. It's $95 in the first year, right? And then it moves up to maybe $750. I mean, there's some people that are going to be making that calculation and say, if something really goes wrong, I'll get it then.
You got to start somewhere. And I think
Well, let me let Andrew weigh in on that, and I'll get back to you, Michael.
You got to start somewhere, and to have the insurance industry in balance, you have to include all these people. I agree, it starts low, $95 in the beginning, but when you're bringing all these uninsured Americans into the pool, $795 is going to go a long way. So I think it's a good start, and you have to put this in balance. You have to get everybody into the pool.
Michael, on the same issue about costs as well, you say that between taxing Cadillac plans, taxing some of the Medicaid payroll contributions for people making over families making over $250,000 and other things are still not going to be enough to pay for. You don't think the Congressional Budget Office estimate is accurate. Explain that.
No, I think the estimates are accurate for the bill as written. I think the bill as written is unrealistic. Look, they say they're going to implement $500 billion of Medicare cuts. But at the same time, they're undoing past promises of future Medicare cuts. So that's not credible at all. So that's going to require higher taxes to make up for all the new spending to which this legislation would commit us. And after the fact that they're not going to be making the spending cuts that they said, but then the point that you made about the low penalties for not buying health insurance, that means that what that actually means is that, yes, a lot of people are going to drop coverage. They're going to pay the penalty and not insure. So premiums are going to go up because everyone in the risk pool is going to be sicker. And as those premiums go up, people who purchase insurance are going to demand more subsidies. They're going to demand that the penalties be raised on those who don't purchase health insurance. So this legislation is really a ticking tax bomb where we are going to have even more government spending and even higher taxes than this legislation pretends.
Like I said, I think you have to start somewhere. Now remember, the $95 is just the first year, and we move people along, fairly quickly in this process. And this bill, yes, it's very expensive, but the country has decided we want health care reform. I really believe that. So, and there's a lot of moving pieces here. No one provision of this bill is inexpensive or works perfectly, but we have to get it started, and I think the mandate will work. I think people want health insurance.
Well, the biggest fight could end up being over abortion in this situation. And Michael, one of the things that the House did was put in some pretty restrictive language when it comes to whether or not the federal government is going to pay for abortions. The Senate bill, however, is not restrictive. How is this going to work out?
Well, I think that both sides are right. When a piece of legislation this massive is enacted, when it injects the federal government into so many corners of the healthcare sector and people's healthcare decisions, it's inevitable that the government's going to disrupt the status quo over abortion. So either we'll get a situation like the House bill where there are no federal funds for abortion, but what that does is it restricts access to private abortion coverage, or we'll get something like the Senate bill, which does force Americans to subsidize other people's abortions. There's really no way to split the baby here. There's no way to prevent one of those outcomes from happening. The status quo cannot not be upset with this legislation.
How do they reconcile that among Democrats?
I don't know how they're going to reconcile this. Most people don't choose their health insurance based on whether abortion is covered or not. It just doesn't belong in this conversation, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, people are not buying health insurance because there's an abortion coverage. I know it's front and center now. I hope they find a way to get it out.
All right, well, I want to thank both of you for your thoughts this morning. Andrew Rubin and Michael Cannon, thanks.